Kia ora koutou, welcome back to our next episode on Silencing the Shitty Committee. I'm Bianca.
And I'm Tessa.
And you are with us today, and if this is the first time for you joining us, then I'll give a quick background. What is the Shitty Committee? Shitty Committee is our negative narrative that we have in the nighttime, usually in the nighttime, normally around the time of 3 to 5 a.m. when we're trying to have our best sleep. And it's usually quite critical. It's our critical inner voice that can say things like, you could be a better person, you could be stronger, faster, skinnier, taller, shorter, everything else in between. And for some people, they can silence it. For some people, it's kind of the booster for them to go about their day and change things up for the better. But for others, if it's loud or if it's overpowering, it can be, make them feel quite heavy in their day. They might decide not to take on their day, and they might shut the curtains and stay inside. And, so this is trying to normalize that we all have ups and downs on our journey. And that's kei te pai, that's to be expected. But yeah, we're trying to raise some awareness through the beautiful stories that we've been allowed to share on our podcast. And if you haven't listened to our other episodes, please go back and listen to them. Know they all come with a place of aroha from both Tessa and I, just to try and, shed some light on topics that probably normally people wouldn't want to kōrero about. We're going to go into our karakia, because we're definitely going to need that for today's episode. So let's start with that. Ngā mihi nui kia koe brother, Wiri, mō tō karakia.
Kia tau iho ngā manaakitanga o te wāhi ngaro, kia tātou ngā pū kōrero, tai atu ki te hunga whakarongo. Mā rātau tātou e arahi, ia tātou e whai ngātahi nei i te māramatanga, i te oranga tonutanga mō tātou whānau. Haumi e, hui e, tāiki e.
Ngā mihi nui kia koe brother, but I also wanted to quickly give us, I wanted to give a trigger warning for this episode in particular. It is and it will be about suicide. So if this is something that's, recently happening or has happened or is around, or is this something that you feel that could trigger you, please, go into this with caution. It's going to be confronting. Make sure you ground yourself, make sure you're around people, make sure you kōrero to people. But I need the listeners, I need people to realize that this is a topic we want to address because it's very current, unfortunately, in our society right now. But we're going to try and do this respectfully as we can. But we also understand the taumaha for a lot of whānau. So please don't listen to this around tamariki. Please don't listen to this if you are already quite vulnerable. Please park this and maybe listen to this at another time if that's you right now. We will definitely come back at the end of this, the podcast, to kind of link you up to who could you reach out to. If this is something for you or something very real and current for your whānau, because we want you guys to feel supported and safe. So please, come into this knowing that this is what we're going to kind of try to unpack together, Tessa and I, knowing that this is a very real kōrero for a lot of whānau right now. So I just kind of wanted to give that background. So today I am super thankful to this manawahine's story. It's not easy to share story of loss. We heard in a previous episode, we talked about grief, and whilst this is grief, it's very different to the kōrero we've already done. So we wanted to acknowledge that, and it needed to have its own episode, and I guess for us a space to wānanga. And the hope that it encourages other whānau to wānanga about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not an easy topic, but we are going to try and approach this as gracefully and respectfully as we can. So bear with us as we go on this journey together, guys. So today's journey is about a mama who, she's a very dear friend. Her name is Suzy Taylor, and she works in this space now. However, like a lot of people,
Space,
the space of supporting other people who have suicided and whānau who have had suicide or lost due to suicide. And it comes from her living this tale herself and trying to navigate that space. And I guess, you know, just like a lot of people who find themselves working in these spaces, it's usually because of the what we call lived experiences. And I guess turning Mamai into helpful ways for other people, I guess because she can empathise and sympathise in ways that others can't. So, you know, it's a huge job, it's a hard task when you have had to deal with something like this. It's a sudden loss, it's an unexpected loss, and it's grief like none other. It makes me sad to even think about bearing your child, and that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. So, you know, please be with us. Again, if this is too much, please don't listen to this right now. You know, come back to it. Don't come back to it. Kei a koe. But this is the kōrero. The day that my daughter died by suicide, I was not prepared for the days that lay ahead. I was told that I needed heavy medication or I would not survive this. I was told that 50% of marriages end when a child dies in this way. I was told that my grief was going on a bit too long and it was time I got over it. What I wasn't told was that somehow I will survive this, that eventually things will become a little bit more manageable. It might not be today or next or even next month, but that time will come when grief and happiness can coexist in my heart. I would like to share with you guys, and I thank Bianca for allowing me the space to share this, what helped me in this really dark and rough moment. Those times when the waves of grief felt like tsunamis, and it felt like I was going to drown, and at times wanted to drown. I called these the small mercies. I have a wonderful, supportive partner who cares for me. I have 2 surviving adult children that I am firmly attached to, and they to me. I have 3 beautiful mokopuna who come and raid my pantry and leave behind love that fills my heart. We do not blame each other for what happened. Rather, we have huddled together when the storms come. I have more than my share of good friends. And my true healing came when I met people like me. Parents who had lost their children this way. It was then that I realized I wasn't going crazy. It was then I realized my number 1 shitty committee agenda of being the worst mother in the world. The wondering of could I, should I, if I had done something differently, the result wouldn't have been the same. But I have pushed through this and silenced this really dark, shitty committee with the belief that this is some of the self-blame that I can't continue to carry, and that I must let it go. I must let it go so that I can be there for my other children who too are grieving the loss of a sibling, for my mokopuna who are grieving the loss of an auntie, for her friends that are grieving the loss of a friend. All of my blame, all of my self-blame had to be let go, so that one dark situation didn't lead into another. It took courage, it takes energy, it takes time, but this has been what has helped for me. And I'm thankful that she allowed us to share this, but I am also very understanding of, for obvious reason, she doesn't go into the detail. To be honest, the detail isn't needed, I mean, at the end of the day, she lost her child to suicide, suddenly, unexpectedly. But what she does highlight are ways that she pushed through and coped. So I'm super thankful for her allowing us to use her kōrero as our chance. I'm not even going to call it an opportunity, because I'm not going to lie, I wish we didn't have to talk about this topic. I wish this wasn't our reality. I wish this wasn't our iwi's reality right now, but it is. And so I guess the first thing I'm probably going to just put out there on the table for us to talk about, Tess, is probably what you took, what you heard, what you felt in this story, and ngā mihi nui kia koe, Suzy, for your kōrero. Yeah.
I feel like it's still heavy to process. Like no one wants to be in that situation. And I couldn't imagine being a mother, a parent losing their child, or anyone close to me taking their life.
Yeah.
So, just really heavy. I wouldn't know where to start or how to help family go through or process this.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess being there for them. But what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a real hard one, and I can see why people don't normally. Let's just be honest. It's not a easy kōrero. It's not a fun kōrero in any way. It's not something I don't know. I can't imagine it's something that's easy to just throw out there if you're feeling this way. It's a hard place to work out where to start. I personally haven't had somebody close to me suicide. In my mahi, I'm highly aware of how common it is for our mama. And a lot of people don't know this, and it's actually a big part of the problem, if I'm being honest here, about why I think people don't talk about this. There is a stigma to suicide. There is an assumption around suicide that people do it because they are, I don't know, struggling, because they are possibly, I don't know, financially not okay, because they've had relationship stuff. There is these assumptions, right? But actually, if we're really being honest, if we look at the current scenarios that we know that have happened recently, and mihi nui kia mātou for those families who know, we can't, everybody is different, everybody's journey is different, and it doesn't look the same. So it's going to be hard for us to talk about this specifically, because obviously we're not going to bring anybody's personal stories into this, but we also, I do want the whānau, whoever are listening, to kind of take a couple of things and possibly try and see if it helps. And I guess one thing is that if we talk about Pōdi on a level of almost like it's a continuum, like we've got some people who, I guess the signs that you're trying to see, what are the signs? There's a range. How to approach that. So let's start with what can be the signs. There are some obvious signs, and I say obvious very respectfully, because I guess I also need to also remember myself, like Suzy, like other people in our community, and I'm going to say it right here and now, kahira, you work tirelessly in this space, also in the suicide space, to our coroners who have a tiresome job of identification once these things have happened, our police who deal with these on a daily basis. I don't know if you know this, and I didn't know this, but I only know this because my brother was a cop. I didn't realize that when someone suicides, it is the police's responsibility to be the first person to go there and be part of all of that. And I mean, that's so heavy. It's also the police's responsibility to go and tell those immediate whānau members the horrible news. I can't even imagine what that would be like. So I think this is a good time to say he mihi nui kia koutou. If you're a policeman, if you're one of those people, a coroner, if you're, if you're part of the, what do you call this, the mortuary, I can't remember, the morgue team or whatever, the passing team that sees you in the hospital, and those whānau that are supported when you have these losses, the Suzy Taylors of our world, the kahiras of our community. These people work in this space where it is heavy, there is mamai, there is anger, there is hurt, there is confusion, there is questioning of why, could I, should I, if I, there's so much that folds into all of this. So, mad respect to those people who choose to work in the space, because it's not an easy space. If we start from facts, then we start from the fact that New Zealand has a very high suicide rate when it comes to our youth. We're very much up there in the developed world, which is sad. In terms of the space that I am blessed to be in, it is the number one reason why our mamas die during pregnancy and post-birth. I mean, lots of people don't realise that. They assume that it's to do with, like, say, complications with the birth. That's not the case. We have the highest suicide rates than any other developed country, and I'm sad that that's the truth. Because I can't even fathom to be in a position where you feel you want to take, leave this world, but also to do so, at that time of you're carrying your pepe. I mean, that's taumaha like taumaha, right? You don't make that decision on a whim. And I guess that kind of leads us into the fact that there can be some myths out there around that. I know that there are ideas or conceptions or people's beliefs that it's a selfish act, and I say that only because people say that. I have heard people say that many times, like, how could he, how could she, they've got children, he's got children, they've got this, why? But at the same time, I think we never know how people are. We don't know how they're going. They look like everything's kei te pai, but some people are good at masking, unfortunately. And so there's a lot of whānau members that will sit there going, why didn't I see it? And they'll take a lot of guilt over it. I mean, Suzy talks about it. She talks about, I had to let go of the self-blame. It makes sense why people would think that, because it's like, should I have reached out? Should I have talked more? Should I have asked? You just never know, eh?
Yeah. And the thing is, we also get caught up in our day-to-day lives. If we're running the household, have a family, and wearing other hats, sometimes when we want to relax or contact the friend, it may be too late, but at the same time, you shouldn't be putting the blame on you for, reaching out too late.
I mean, I have a personal opinion on this, and I guess that's because I've, unfortunately, lots of the people who I've, been blessed to meet, they have very real stories of this. And some of them, I reached out to, and they just, it just wasn't, it's still hard for them. They didn't believe that they had silenced their shitty committee enough. And they continue to struggle, and I just always say to them, that's a very real feeling that's expected, right? Like, yeah. And for some of them, we're talking like direct family or their partners even. And I mean, it's taumaha on so many levels. These are the true mana wahine in our communities that they're the silence. They're the ones that we have to praise them in silence. And you know who you are if you're listening. So, well done to you, because it's a very, I wouldn't understand what that would feel like to lose your love. The parent of your tamariki, are very taumaha. That all of that has dimensions in itself that's so heavy and mamai. But I do have this personal opinion, and it is that it's actually not a selfish act, and people might agree and listen and be like, I don't agree with her, kei te pai. Kei te pai. I'm open to the debate. But for me personally, I actually think that it's more, and I take this from those who I've seen and who've come to me in kōrero space, and it's definitely more that they actually have thought about this and they think of it as a selfless act, and that they're trying to take away the burden for others. You hear things like, oh, but I didn't want to be a burden on them. I wasn't in a good space, and I didn't want to be a hoha, to be a nuisance, to be heavy. I didn't want that. I wanted more for something. I wanted more for them. And so it's actually an act where they've thought about this and thought of those people that they care for as in, and then that's what makes me sad about this, is that they've got to a point where they must believe that this world would be better off without them. And that's that's a really sad whakaaro to think that people get to. So it's a heavy kōrero. It's a hard one. I guess.
What would you say to someone who is in that space, like thinking in that headspace, or what are some, I guess, tools that could help them or help their family?
I guess if it was them, we could start with that first. If I got to see them in a time when they're really heavy and dark, I guess a lot around, take them back to the basics in terms of like, what is it you love? Remove all the noise that's going on in their lives. Remove all the expectations, the stresses, the layers of what they should be doing or they have to do, and just take it back to, man, what is it that makes you sing? What is it that makes you shine? What is it that made you happy? And encourage them to reconnect with that. That, I guess, that would be one way in the interim to kind of help reconnect them back to something meaningful, because they've obviously got to a point where they can't see themselves changing themselves, or they feel like the world is quite heavy or scary. Take them back to, okay, wait on, you've done X amount of years where you haven't maybe felt this way. What was it then? And really highlight and emphasize those positives that they still have. Not in a way to make them feel guilty. And that's the hard part, because it's like, how do you do that tactfully without them now feeling guilty that then they have this whakaaro thinking? Acknowledge, like, I'm so thankful you told me. I'm thankful you've reached out. I'm thankful you opened up, because that in itself, huge, huge. Your second part of the question was like, how can whānau help each other? I think that's also a hard one. Wait on, let's go back to helping yourself. If you then feel like you need that extra help, this is where I say there are services, contrary to belief, there are actually services that can help you. And I'm not saying it's a one size fits all. For some people, it's not going to help. It might be that you end up seeing a psychiatrist, they give you some medication, kind of to quieten the noise, the shitty committee, make that shitty committee quieter. Yeah. There are pills for that. So that could be helpful just while you process your thoughts differently, or to help you process your thoughts differently. Because you've definitely got to a space where you are processing them in a way that's, you believe that's your option, your only option. But if you had more time to, say, sleep, maybe it's, and I'm going to be very honest here, maybe it's that you've gone down the path of self-medicating. I say that nicely, but what that really means is you're taking drugs or alcohol to help you numb things. that in itself can cause you to not think clearly, right? We don't know what's in the drugs out there these days. Like, we don't know. People think they know what they're having, taking, doing, but we don't know what those mixes are. We don't know what that drug will do on somebody. So, you know, everyone's different. So, you know, that whilst people believe that that could be something to help them, that's not always the case. And that also,
it may numb it for a short period, but in the long run, it will only make things heightened or
well, you still have those mamais that will lay there after that, and then what, you have more, like, you know, we worry that we'd get into that. Also, we don't know the effects. If you're already in a dark space and then you have some, you know, you go down those paths, what might that make you do? It might make you think you're invincible and things, you know, we don't know. So, you know, but I understand that people believe that that's a way of coping, but that's one way, and there's obviously other ways. So we do have services that are out there and that want to help people who have those spaces. Addiction is a hard space. Like, it's an addiction for a reason, because people get caught and people get stuck on these things. So, you know, alternatives to their normal ways of coping.
And I guess it's hard when you're in a cycle where that is the norm. Drinking is the norm.
Yeah.
But there are other communities out there, and I guess it's more current in the last couple of years where there's been other podcasts or communities around towns to highlight it or support the kaupapa, and just finding the right people when you are in your healing process. Really.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of links back to the other stories we've highlighted. Finding your community, finding your community. And if you are in a community or you're in a cycle, that's a good way to word it, and it's not helping, or you've been in that community thinking it was going to help and you find yourself in a darker place, then maybe that's the time, that's the tohu to be like, maybe I need to change my community.
Or join a new community.
Try something different, you know. In terms of your second question, though, around how can whānau help, I'm not going to lie, with what's been happening in our community, one, I feel blessed that you and I get an opportunity to sit down and talk about this kōrero. Like I said, we wish we didn't have to. But it's very current and prevalent, and what I wanted to also highlight is that I made a point, and you will know this if you are my friend, of reaching out to every tāne in our community just to offer a genuine ear, and I was very genuine about that offer. And I did it intentionally because you just never know who needs it. And I had 23 tāne respond to me saying they wanted that opportunity. And it's so interesting.
That's cool.
Because they are not, and I say this kindly, they are not the stereotypical people you would have assumed would need awhi. And I just think then it reminds me that nobody is immune, nobody is exempt, nobody is clear of heaviness, of mamai, of taumaha, of depression, of anxiety, of all of it mixed together. Nobody. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter how many kids you've got, it doesn't matter your education. You know, it doesn't matter. You just don't know what people's lives are like. It's subjective, it's personal. Like, your level of tolerance of mamai and heaviness is probably very different to me. We're the same whānau. You know, me and my sister have a very different level of tolerance, but that doesn't mean anyone's is worse or better. We're just different people. And kei te pai tērā. But what I took from those responses, one, I felt thankful that people were honest and opened up to me. But I also then learned that, like I said, anybody can be affected. Anybody. And you just never know. Like,
it takes courage to do that. And also, hopefully, by reaching out or taking that first step, they felt a sense of support or relief. But
true. Yeah, I never thought about that they may have then been like, heck, you know what, I am actually struggling. And that's probably why they responded. Yeah, and thought about it like that. I was just thankful, to be honest. I didn't do it. I did it genuinely, but to be honest, it really shed some light. And then what happened from that is that I realized I called my trusty people, my little crew and I went straight into typical B mode, like, what can we do? What can we do, guys? As a iwi, we need to do something. We can't keep bearing our own. I definitely went into that whakaaro, and I contacted my trusty friend, one of our doctors, and then we talked about this, and we've had kōrero about this. So ngā mihi nui ki a koe, Dr. Armstrong. What we wānangad about, and I'd love to share, is that again, this is just our whakaaro. It might not be the way for people, but I just think this was a good way to whakamana ngā whānau, is we agreed that instead of us trying to encourage these people, unless they really need it, to reach out to the services that
all want it,
reach out to the services that are already stretched. Let's just be honest about that. We wanted to find a way that how can we help whānau help each other. And I think that's very big in Te Ao Māori, to help whānau whakamana each other. And what we thought about, and we've talked about, is that I think it's important for us to have each whānau to have their person, their whānau pou, I guess we could call them, and how each whānau should have their one person that I don't know, most of the cousins will go to, all the siblings will go to, and that you could feel you could kōrero to. And I really, again, I'm probably assuming here, which I just said we shouldn't do, but I want to hope that within your immediate whānau, everybody has at least one person that they can go to as their pou. Now, say for example that your mama, she's very good at being a pou, was our whānau pou. My worry then would be that pou could feel burnt out, right? That pou could feel like, ooh, that's heavy. I don't know how to deal with that. So then my thinking would be, that's where I would ask, like, you reach out to your services then and say, excuse me, I'm the whānau pou for te whānau taute, and I'm struggling to help my nephew or my niece or my moko or whatever, you know, or my sister or my auntie, you know, and we need to find better ways to help those pou so that stay as strong as they can and help them with tools to help their whānau, because they know what their whānau, they know who their whānau are, they know what works for them. So I just think we need to get better as a community of one, identifying who's that auntie, who's that uncle, who's that cousin, who's that sister, who's that brother, who's that person that can be the pou, but then we as a community have to whakamana that pou so that they can help their own. And I just think that that's a really beautiful way for whānau to take mana in their own whānau, and then build capacity to build mana within their own whānau to help each other. And that way they're not reliant on a service, they're not reliant on a person, they're reliant on each other. But I do think we have to do this tactfully, because those pou are going to need support, and that's expected because that's heavy, it's heavy work. So I have had a kōrero to a few agencies, and I just said, you know, like, what's out there, what do you guys do right now that we could do to help these pou? And actually, and ngā mihi nui kia Wairekipuria Trust, who came back to me and said, no, you need to go out there, and we know that there's already amazing things that whānau are doing out in their whānau. We know that there are the men's groups that are starting up, or that have been going for a long time. I hear things like wakaama is happening out there. I hear things like people buying boats and going out on boat trips. I hear there are runs that are happening that are, whilst they're doing things that don't seem like it's for their mental health, it is actually, that's the underlying kaupapa. And so I just think, if those are you guys, well done, amazing, like honestly amazing that you're doing that. You're already a million steps in front of us, and share with us, you know, reach out to us and tell us, what is it that you guys are doing? What's helping you guys? What's helping your little village? What's helping your community? What's helping your marae? What's helping your iwi? Because I'm not trying to take away from what you're doing, but if it is that what's working for you guys possibly could work for another community. So I would love to be able to gather what's happening out there and create a space. I can put it up on our Silencing the Shitty Committee stuff and pages on our Instagram and our Facebook, and we could add that. So, you know, tukuna he imera kia mātou, silencingthesc@gmail.com, and share with us. Let's whakanuia that. Let's celebrate that, because heck, that's the forward thinking aim. That's what we have to be doing. And then again, also on the other side of that, if this is you and you've decided, okay, I'm going to listen to that girl and try it, and I might be the po, but you're like, I don't even know where to start. I wouldn't know what to do if my mokopuna came to me and said, Nanny, I don't feel like being on this earth. Heck, that's a heavy kōrero. So, you know, also reach out to us via imera, and you know, let us help you, connect you to something that could help. There are things that are out there, like there are, you know how St. John's does first aid?
Yeah.
They also do a mental health first aid.
Oh.
So you could do a course on that.
Didn't know that.
And that's, I mean, all around New Zealand they have those through there, but lots of people don't realise they do that now. There are also different areas where they have their own support services for mental health stuff. So, you know, all of that stuff. But I think another important thing is be okay to kōrero. If you're in a dark space, be okay.
Yeah. And it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, they say that, but it's actually, it really is. I think, I'm not trying to normalize that we shouldn't be okay. I mean, ideally, I wish we were always okay, but we're not.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not.
And there's things that are going to come up in life or you're going to disagree with. And I think for myself, or I'm generalizing, female or some female, let's just say for myself, if I'm not okay, I express that. And usually it's to the ones closest to me. If I disagree with something, if I want something done my way because in my head this is how I think, but just not bottling it up and stacking on other things that come in every day or in a week, and then getting to a point where it's too full and bursting. But yeah, communicating and just helping those around you to just communicate.
Communicate.
Yeah,
that's such, I mean, it seems like that's an easy answer, the communicate. It's
like,
so hard.
Communicate.
Yeah, and it's like, and we don't want to say it, so
What
like,
do you mean?
like condescending. Just communicate, kōrero, mate. Like, what's the issue?
I guess it's like,
But it's so hard to do that.
Taglines are like trying to dig out what they need to say. And for me, if I feel a certain way, I feel like I can express that. So
you'd be quite okay to be, say you were in a dark space, you'd feel okay to talk to whoever it is, that your trusted person, and say what.
Yeah, but I feel like to get into a dark space, there's layers.
Yeah.
And it's the build up of everything. To try relieve that is communicating
the layers
before it builds up.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, I
that's
get that.
For me. I'm not an expert on everyone else.
I think that's really powerful though, to acknowledge that you know yourself, you know your layers, and you know like your threshold, you know what you can handle. And I guess being okay to be like, well, I'm starting to get to like limit, like I'm getting towards that.
Yeah.
I think
even calling it out before it happens, like, oh, I'm tired and I just need a break, so I'm going to go for a hikoi. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Expressing that,
yeah,
acknowledging it, and then going, instead of, you may acknowledge that, but then just bottle it and then just like keep going, you know.
That bottling up you talk about, actually, in the CBT stuff that I do, there's actually two really interesting, what do you call this? analogies that they use. One, and I find them both as interesting, we need to, they say the elephant in the room, address the elephant in the room, which is, or the elephant in the closet, it might even be, which is that we can go through our lives trying to make the most of our lives, just avoiding this big elephant that's just like literally stomping around in your head. And then eventually we can't do that anymore. Eh? We're suffocated, or we feel like, I can't do that. And so really we have to just address it. We can't, you're right, you just have to call it for what it is, I think you said. Address it, own it, and then be man enough to be, and well, I say that nicely, man or woman enough, to just be like, excuse me, sorry, mayday, I am struggling. And I say this, but I have also got, I mean, I've never been dark, but I've been dark, and I realize it took me to say it out loud for me to scare myself. And I was like, whoa, heck, I am struggling. And that's somebody who works in the space. So please, we say this flippantly, but we also understand communicating your deepest, darkest mamai is not easy. And it's so hard to know what to ask people. Just so you guys know, there are some signs. I say some. Now these are things like you see whānau pulling away. You see them stop doing the things they used to love. You see them giving away property. We see those common threads that happen. They start to give away their favourite guitar. They start to give away their taonga, their prized possessions. They become quite reckless in behaviours. You know, they start to do things where it's kind of skeeting along the lines of dangerous. Like they have this risk about them that's not normal. They start to say things like, you know, it's never that obvious. Heck, you never have somebody who will come up to you and go, hi Bianca, I'm suicidal. Like you just won't. But you will have them say, I don't know what's going on, but I don't feel myself. I haven't felt myself in a long time. Things are dark. Like that kōrero we need to take, and we need to make sure if somebody has said that to you and say you don't feel like you can help that person, you don't feel equipped, that is when you reach out to a service. That's when you reach out to 1737 and you say, excuse me, sorry, please stop. I have my cousin, I have my cousin's friend, I have my friend, I have whoever, the neighbour who's come over and said these things to me. I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, and like you said, like going to the po of your family, because there's sometimes, not to be sad, but people reach out to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Because that person doesn't know what to do or may not have the tools.
Oh, yeah. You mean they're the wrong person? Yeah, because they don't feel they're able to,
to help.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So again, those po or those people, if you become the trusted person of such a heavy kōrero, and you don't feel like you can hold that space for them, which is perfectly normal, that's a hard space to hold, then all we're saying is pass that on to somebody who can help. Because you never know. You don't realize that you might be the only person that they feel that they could have said that to, and they will maybe not give somebody else that opportunity to awhi. You just don't know. And we don't want to be sat with what ifs. We don't want to be left with guilt. We don't want to be like, I should have, could have, you know. There's no, like Suzy said, and I'm thankful she said it, I had to let go of self-blame, and she just lived in the positive. She focused on what does she still have. She talked about mokopuna, the children she still had, the partner that she had that supported her. I'm thankful she had those things. But it's a very hard space, and you know, thank you, Tess, for sitting with me in this. It's not a topic we would have wanted to address, but we also couldn't pretend that we can't, that we you know, we don't want to skeet around it also. That's part of the problem, is that in society we kind of do tiptoe around it. We're worried we'll say the wrong thing.
We're addressing the elephant in the room.
Yeah, we got to face that elephant. Even if that elephant's scary, we got to face it, because we just have to. And so, yeah.
And I definitely don't have the tools to, you know, but it's good to get some tools or think about
have a real think about you know, you might be that po, you might listen to this and think, oh, I could probably be the po. Kei te pai, cool, reach out to us. Like, let us know if you need awhi in that space. Let us know if you are doing amazing things that are helping your community, your people, your whānau, your friends. Let us know. Like I said, let's celebrate those, because Tessa and I don't know the answers to this. But if we can gather some possible other options in our kete, then again, ako, i te reo Māori, ako is to learn and share. So whatever comes in, we will me tukuna kia rātou, to see if it's helpful. Again, helpful, cool, not delete, forget, you listen to us. But yeah, ngā mihi for being in this space. Kōrero is the biggest take I want you to take from this, kōrero. And if you are that po, whakarongo, the power of whakarongo, the power of holding space. You think you need a tool to fix them, but actually just holding space for them, listening, literally active, actual listening is what's needed. So I'm just going to end this on with Dr. Henemua Elders, one of her whakatauki. Nā te iho ko te kōrero, nā te whakaaro nui ko te mū. Talking comes naturally. Silence comes from wisdom. Listening is underrated, and this whakatauki comes from a very prominent man called Te Wharehuia Milroy. He talks about the people who listen and say very little are the ones to watch. This is something I've been taught by my whānau. Silence is not an absence, it's not a void. There is a lot going on in silence. On the marae, you see the ones who listen intently, sometimes with their eyes closed. Don't be fooled, they are not asleep. They are so tuned into the words, the tone of the voice, the wairua, that is, the spiritual elements and vibrations that occur around the conversation. Talking is the easy part, that is the lesson. Truly listening, hearing, being totally present is such an underrated part of human evolution. It can be a superpower. One of the things I invite parents I'm working with to do is to think more deliberately about how they listen to their kids. Listening to their words is one thing, but we also need to listen to what is behind the words, the feelings driving those words, and also to the silences. How do we listen better? There are different kinds of silence. We need to notice all of them. Hurt silence, the sad hush, the cold shoulder, the face like thunder, a withholding quiet. There is a tendency for us to try and fill silence with a lot of words. This can sometimes be a way to avoid what we might feel in the stillness of quiet. While we are not talking, we deliberately focus on listening. We have to stop and we have to be still. When we stop, we can actually really notice how we feel in ourselves, what we are thinking. That can feel a bit scary. For me, allowing for silence helps me really think about what I'm saying. Did I mean those words? Was I just filling the void or trying to feel in control? Being still, listening to my own thoughts and taking some time to work out what is genuine is vital. Listening to others without interrupting them, without thinking about my response before they have even finished, is a useful discipline. It is a tool, it is a strength, it is a superpower. I have to learn to slow down and stop, to truly listen to myself and others. I have learned the power of stopping and listening in silence. The end kaupapa, the end point of this is listen to hear, don't listen to respond. So ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Like I said, reach out to those if you are struggling in this place. Please, we need you to know that there are other options. That's what we need you to know. And just to whakakapi this kōrero taumaha i tēnei wā, we're going to go to our karakia. Ngā mihi nui kia koe, brother. Ngā mihi nui kia koe, Suzy, for allowing your kōrero, your journey to, open us, allow us to have this wānanga on this topic. Ngā mihi.
Ka hikina I konei te taumaha o nei kōrero. Kia mau ko ngā hua ki o tātou hirikapo. Kia wātea tātou a hinengaro, a tinana, a ngākau, a wairua I te ara takatū. Haumi e, hui e, tā iki e.